We reviewed the four types of propaganda we went over in the World War I unit. Again, those four types are recruiting, dehumanizing the enemy, home front, and general encouragement. And for the most part, most people said that they thought that either dehumanizing or recruitment were the two most effective and important uh, modes of propaganda. With dehumanizing, a lot of people said that it was because it was convincing people to change their behavior, convincing people to continue fighting or to continue hating the enemy. And that was important because it convinces the people that their enemy is different. And as we've talked about many times before, human nature fears whatever is different or new. Other people said recruiting, because you can't fight a war unless you have soldiers, and they also use guilt. And I loved some of those examples of guilting soldiers into joining the war. Don't be that one guy who didn't serve. Be able to tell your children that you served proudly with the rest of your country. And some people were really looking for a sense of nationalism. That's why they joined. Or even that the imagery of the recruiting posters, like Uncle Sam, like John Bull, I want you to join the army, that those still endure today, so that that has a lasting impact. We have been talking about how Hitler took power in 1933 and 34 with the Reichstag fire, and Hitler's chancellor blames the communists and says that the communists within the Reichstag are looking to dissemble the German democracy because the goal of communism is world domination. So he has those elections. The Nazi Party gets more power. So now, with the power of the Nazi Party and Hitler as chancellor, he can pass the Enabling Act, which allows him to essentially do whatever he wants for 4 years. He doesn't have to run for re-election. And then a year later, before President Hindenburg dies, he names Hitler as chancellor, but also as Führer. So getting rid of the democracy, because Hitler has saved the German people. He has saved them from chaos, from economic ruin. And so as of 1934, Hitler is the Führer and Reichskanzler. So the way that Hitler takes power is different than how he keeps power. He has a new goal to maintain power, to maintain stability. And one of the first ways he does that is through the Night of the Long Knives. Beautiful summer evening in the German countryside, Hitler invites a bunch of people to a house party to which he didn't show up. And the people that he's inviting are actually people who are potential threats. People within the Nazi Party who disagree with Hitler, who could potentially try and take power from Hitler. And so he has them all killed. And that's why it's called the Night of the Long Knives, is because they're mostly stabbed to death. One of the people who is among this group is this man, Ernst Röhm. He was the leader of the SA, the stormtroopers, or the brown shirts, the military wing of the Nazi Party. He had been talking about how he deserved to have more power, how he deserved a better position in the Nazi system. Röhm was also a known homosexual, and Hitler sees this as an aberration, a defect of humanity, and so he is happy to have Röhm killed. So Ernst Röhm is vying for power. He's a homosexual, and also the way the SA functioned was very important for the way Hitler took power. He needed that violence, that intimidation by the brown shirts to help take power. But now he's looking for stability. And so the SA loses power, and this allows the SS to gain power. The SS is led by a man named Heinrich Himmler. You can see him there with interesting glasses. But if you notice on his hat, he's got the skull and crossbones. The SS is intense. They are not as rowdy as the SA. They are not as maybe as visible in mass. But the SS will, from here on out, be the more powerful military branch of the Nazis. In addition to eliminating potential threats, the Germans, in a way, I think, fear Hitler, but they also really like him. Hitler is rebuilding the German sense of pride and the German economy and German nationalism. And one way he does this is by blaming someone else, by blaming essentially the Jews and the communists. that they are to blame for everything that is going wrong in our country. That the Jews are the money lenders and they have taken the money from the good German people. That Jews decided the Treaty of Versailles that took away our territory and our pride and blamed us for everything. So, in building up the German identity, you have to take down someone else. Part of the German identity and Hitler's viewpoint is this perfect specimen, this perfect example of Germanic heritage. And he calls this the Aryan race. And the Aryan race is a sort of an ancient people group. And ideally, they have blonde hair, blue eyes, but there's variations within that. And so what Hitler is saying is that if you have that Aryan blood, the Blut, then you are German. That's one major element of the German identity. But the other element of the German identity is Boden, the land. So if you've got the pure Aryan blood, wonderful. But we're lacking the land because we've lost so much of it from the Treaty of Versailles. So we start seeing how he is building up this ideal, this master race, and talking about getting back territories. For average citizens, they really like Hitler. He is working to build up this Volkish mentality, he calls it. Volk as in folk, as in the people, the regular people. How do we celebrate regular Germans? And my favorite example of this is the VW, the Volkswagen, the people wagon. You have to remember, in the mid-1930s, most families didn't own a car. It was a luxury. And so the Nazis create an affordable vehicle that the average German family can afford. And this is really cool, and he builds something that will make this possible. He builds the Autobahn, this great freeway system that still exists in Germany, and there's no speed limit even today. And in building the Autobahn, this is the perfect example of how he is building up the German people. First, in building the Autobahn, he's creating jobs. He is putting Germans to work and giving them a paycheck. Second, it is allowing Germans to easily travel throughout Germany using their new affordable cars. They can travel throughout the country and say, wow, this is a great country. This is a beautiful land. We are a good people. And celebrating that German identity. But in thinking ahead, the Autobahn will also be useful for tanks, for moving military movements, for moving the military across the entire country, because he's saying we need to reclaim land. We need to take back land that has been taken from us. And so all of this celebration of the master race also comes at the cost of fear of anything that's different, the other, or the undesirable. And we revisit social Darwinism. If the fit are the ones who survive, then we should speed up the process a little bit. Let's get rid of the weak to begin with, and that's eugenics. As you all know, the Jews are targeted for this, but also homosexuals, the mentally ill, the physically disabled, the Roma or Gypsy people. All of these are seen as inferior humans, inferior specimens that are polluting this good German blood. And you can see that image there, that even the propaganda is showing that, these inferior groups are burdening the German people. Look at this good German. He's struggling under the weight of paying for all these people. And when we don't want to continue their defective blood, so that's why we need to eliminate them. Hitler makes this possible with the Nuremberg laws in 1935. This is the system of laws that delineates racial purity. It will begin to take away rights from Jews, and the way they are able to do this is because there's plenty of people who might look Aryan, but aren't necessarily that pure German blood that they're looking for. But the Germans are able to do this because they have been taking excellent records for years. They have city records of births and deaths and weddings and all of that. And so they can go back in your family history without you even knowing and tell, are you of pure German blood? Are you what we would call a middling, or, you're sort of a mudblood, we could call it? Or do you have Jewish blood somewhere in your past? And if you go back enough generations, it would be okay. Let's say your great-great-great-great-grandmother was Jewish. Well, there's been enough generations to clean out, to purify that blood, and so that's okay. But this is how Hitler will start picking and choosing who is not part of his master race. The Gestapo is the group that will enforce these laws. They are the secret police, and their leader is Hermann Goering. So these are the ones that will use intimidation, that will interrogate people, that will arrest people. And this is all very similar to what Stalin did. Stalin and Hitler have opposite viewpoints, but they function in similar ways. At first, at the beginning of the Nazi regime, with these undesirable groups, the goal is just to get them out of the general public. And so they'll be sent to concentration camps. A concentration camp is different than an extermination camp. They are similar, but the concentration camp really is just to remove them from society. Most people who end up in concentration camps are often political prisoners. And when you would arrive, you would be given your uniform and a badge so that the guards could know automatically why they hate you. Perhaps it's because you're a communist, or you're an immigrant, you're from another country. You are Jehovah's Witness, or a homosexual, or a habitual criminal. And then the yellow is for if you're Jewish. And so all these people are seen as criminals who are threatening German society. The German people, as much as they might dislike that someone's being taken away, but these people are being played or portrayed as criminals, as a threat to German stability. So in a way, the German people are very grateful. They are grateful to Hitler for saving them from the chaos of the 1920s. The very first concentration camp is at Dachau. It is outside of Munich, and Munich is considered the cultural home of Germany, the cultural center. And Dachau becomes sort of the test camp, where they try out all of their ideas that will eventually be in the rest of the camps throughout Central Europe. The gate to Dachau says, Arbeit macht frei, that work will set you free. So as the workers enter, they're almost building up their hopes that if you serve your time, you do your job here, we might let you go. But then, once they're processed, in addition to getting their uniforms at Dachau, the prisoners would receive a length of rope, and the guards would tell them, well, you could wait around and see what happens, or you could just take care of it tonight. You could hang yourself. And from this we see that the Nazis have absolutely no compassion. They are looking at these people who are seen as undesirable, as less than human, as a nuisance that needs to be eliminated. Because Dachau was first established to get rid of political threats largely, there are many communists who were kept here. And they would be tortured, they would be kept in solitary confinement for weeks in order to gain information about potential threats to the Nazi regime. And like any of these camps, heavy security, electric wire, guard towers, because if these people are a threat to society, we don't want them to get back into the regular population to infect them, to dirty the pure blood, but also we don't want them getting out and telling people what we're actually doing at these camps. Another way the Nazis are able to convince Germany that this is a good idea, that the Nazis are good, is through propaganda. And the minister of propaganda is named Joseph Goebbels. Goebbels, as you can see, he's not really looking like that pure Aryan specimen. He was born with a club foot, so he had a limp his entire life, so he is physically disabled. Hermann Goering, head of the SS, is obese, massive man. And one theory that I've heard many people ask is, was Hitler Jewish? There's not any clear evidence. There are theories both ways. There's evidence both ways. But the idea is that Hitler's grandmother was working as a maid in a Jewish house and had an affair with the owner. And so therefore his father was half Jewish, and that's part of where his hatred of his father came from. It is possible. But another reason that you can look at this is, as humans, we often criticize in others elements in ourselves that we are insecure about. So if the Nazis want to eliminate physical disability, Jewishness, any of these potential defects, if you look at the Nazi Party, the Nazi Party leaders have a lot of those defects. So they're almost eliminating in others what they fear in themselves. And that's true with Joseph Goebbels as well. There is a great clip, if you're in Canvas, just flip over to the right for a moment, about propaganda. It's looking at an exhibition from the Holocaust Memorial Museum in DC from a few years ago. So watch that video. And as it says in the video, the Nazis really use what they call niche marketing, where they are looking at specific groups and trying to get them on board with the Nazi idea. So we have this niche marketing where we're trying to target specific groups in Germany to get them on board with the Nazi ideal. And so first we'll look at women. During the Weimar Republic, during the 1920s, there was a certain amount of gender equality in Germany. There were 100,000 female school teachers. There were 5,000 female physicians. There were 13,000 musicians, professional female musicians. So women were out of the home, they were working, they were an important part of society, both at home and in the workplace. But when the Nazis come to power, they want women to stay at home because the purpose of the women in an Aryan system is to produce and raise more Aryans, to produce the next generation of strong Germans. And Hitler even creates a military-level award for this, the Mutterkreuz, the Mother's Cross, awarded to the best examples of German motherhood every year. So you can see what is important to these people is propagating this perfect master race. And we've got young people. Here we see on the left, this is a book, Children, Do You Know About the Fuhrer? And look how happy Hitler looks. And he's hanging out with children, again, using that same imagery that Stalin was using. On the right, we have a poster for the HJ, the Hitler Jugend, or Hitler Youth. The young people, don't you want to be like Hitler? Now, some young people really did believe the Nazi propaganda. There was even a sort of Girl Scouts group for girls. But there are some boys who just want to be part of Boy Scouts. They just want to go camping and build a campfire. But the ultimate goal of the Nazis is to use this sort of innocence to build up German power, to recreate a German military. Then we come to films. Both Goebbels and Hitler were huge film fanatics. They loved Hollywood movies, and they wanted to create a movie business, a movie industry in Germany to rival that in Hollywood, especially because Hollywood in the 30s was full of Jewish filmmakers, and they hated that. So, I mean, this is the 1930s, the golden age of film, and everyone goes to the movies on a Saturday afternoon. So we have a couple examples of these Nazi propaganda films. First, we have S.A. Mann Brand, the story of a young man who feels that he has no purpose in life. He is a truck driver. It's a dead-end job. Economically, he's not doing well until he finds the Nazi Party and he joins the SA, and his life has purpose. And he's proud to be German, and he convinces his father, and he tries to convince his girlfriend that the Nazis really are the saving grace of Germany. And it's sort of this melodramatic celebration of the Nazis, but people went and saw it. Or you have Der Wege Jude. This is a documentary where they went to Eastern European Jewish communities, videoed or taped Jews in these very stereotypical, trying to show their stereotypical physical features. Here's what you should be aware of in the dirty Jew. Look at his nose, look at his bug eyes, and sort of building this panic and fear of Jewish people. Another great scene is a Jewish community leaving the synagogue on a Saturday. And the people are streaming out just like you guys do in chapel, and you can't wait to go get your donuts, and you stream out of Calvary and just this mass of humanity. But sort of the commentary over that image is, look at the Jew. He's like a rat. They infest our communities. They infect our pure master race. And so it's building up this hatred of the other, those who are perceived as the problem in our society. And then we have the example of Jude Süß. This is another, it's a drama, it's a costume drama. It takes place in the 1700s with all the beautiful costumes and all of that. And if Der Wege Jude is about, here's what is wrong with Jews today so you can recognize it, Jude Süß is about the historical problems that the Germans have with the Jews. Seuss was a banker at the time, is his character, so therefore he earns his money by taking money from good Germans. In addition to that, he is greedy, he is a liar, and he rapes a German maiden. And so for all of these reasons, you can see there he's a monster. And so these films continue these ideas of the Nazis of building up who we are and putting down the other, putting down those that we feel threaten us. The most famous director in Nazi Germany is Leni Riefenstahl. She originally was an actress. Hitler had a little bit of a crush on her. And her two most famous movies really are just massive Nazi propaganda films. The first is called Triumph of the Will. From the title alone, you know this is going to be some epic story of overcoming problems, and it is a documentary, or just sort of the telling of the 1934 Nazi Party rally at Nuremberg. So you have these huge shots overlooking the stadium, and look at all of those Germans. Look, we're all the same. We're gaining our strength from that. There's one very famous clip where Riefenstahl set up a camera behind Hitler on his motorcade, and we then, as the viewer, get Hitler's perspective. As a filmmaker, Riefenstahl was innovative. She was creating beautiful films, but the purpose of it was to build up this image of hatred and superiority, unfortunately. And then we have another shot here from Triumph of the Will where we have Hitler ascending the stairs about to make a speech. And just the way it is framed, sort of the lines, the geometry of it, are stunning. But again, she's using her talent to build up the Nazi idea of superiority. The other film she makes has to do with the 1936 Berlin Olympics. This was a huge deal that Germany was awarded the Olympic Games. They see this as an opportunity to prove to the world that they have rebuilt themselves, and they have done it through their Germanness, because they are so superior, because of their Aryan superiority. You can see that here. Probably the biggest story from these games was that of Jesse Owens. Hitler loved to attend the games and watch the different competitions. Jesse Owens was a runner, an African-American runner from the USA, and Hitler throughout the games had been awarding gold medals and shaking athletes' hands. When Jesse Owens wins, Hitler refuses to shake his hand because he just cannot believe that a prime athlete, a perfect physical specimen, could be something other than an Aryan, especially a black person. And Riefenstahl's movie is all about this peak example, this perfection of the Aryan race, as evidenced through the Olympic Games.